bit about?
Should be recording now. Yeah.
Recording? Okay, cool. So, well, I contacted you guys at Slack a little over a year ago, because then I've been sitting in my basement since 2018 writing code that uses Slack, and I started to get a black belt in developing, writing code using the Slack APIs. But I don't know many other people who are doing the same, though I am aware that quite a few people in Oslo there are doing interesting stuff with Slack, and I found out in the last few days as we announced this chapter. So I wanted to help set up a Slack chapter in Oslo, and I was thinking about doing physical meetings, and then the whole COVID thing came, and I put it kind of on the back burner because I'm not used to doing these virtual events. I'm an in-person person, so I like to meet and chat with people. But now here we are. COVID is going to stay with us for a while, so I can talk a little bit about my background. Now after you know the for having this Oslo chapter. So I've been building companies since I was about 17 years old. Out of college, I created a Norwegian software company, Trolltech, and spent many years there building software development tools. I retired from software development in 1997. Maybe a few people were going to be a member of the Slack chapter. They were not even born at the time. So, but that's when I retired from software development. And then I became a CEO and had to put on a suit and go meet customers and do all of that stuff. We sold the company in 2010 to Nokia after an IPO, and I became an investor. And so I invested in companies, and I got further and further removed from technology. In 2015 or 16, I was pulled into a company called Conclude that was doing some interesting stuff with Slack. And we had a couple of developers who created a really interesting solution. But of course, the whole thing just collapsed after a couple of years when nobody wanted to buy it. But I had a vision for that product, and I said to myself, well, if you're going to build this product, then you have to do it yourself. So basically, then I went down to my basement. I spent 3 years there, unlearning all the CEO stuff and learning to code again. And so that's what I've been doing since 2017-18, becoming a full stack developer and doing a lot of work with Slack. So now I think it's time to come out of the basement and start meeting people, like Kevin and others who are using Slack, and exchange some ideas, because we are not building product in vacuum. We can learn so much by sharing our knowledge and sharing our best practices. And I see that Slack has a huge potential. When I go to companies, they say that, oh, Slack is used by engineering or in a DevOps group, but it has potential to be used way beyond that. But in order to untap that potential, we need technologists like us to help build cool solutions for Slack. So yeah, so that's why I'm here, and that's why I wanted to start this chapter. I'm not a super organized guy, unfortunately, and I tend to forget things. I really want help in having someone to build and operate the chapter together with me. If it's you, Kevin, or if anyone else is interested, really, if it could be a core group of people to start and run a chapter, and then meet physically after a while, at regular intervals. We could get we could also get people from Slack headquarter engineers, product people to come and talk to us online and ask them questions. Yeah, so that's basically about my background, and I give the word now to Niamh.
Yeah, it's just the image of you in the basement is so grim, but seems that things haven't gone too badly at all. All right, so I'm going to do.
It's a nice basement. I have a football table there. I have air hockey also.
I would really go a game of foosball. I'm going to do a quick enough presentation, and also hi Prashant, lovely to see you and joined. Prashant is another chapter leader based in, if you forgive my pronunciation, Chandigarh in India. So I will do just a quick presentation, but as always, there could be technical issues. So I'm going to share my screen, and let's see, hopefully this is sharing my Chrome tab. If all is going well, can you let me know? Are you able to see my presentation? Okay, fabulous. So with that, I'm going to give you just a bit of information about Slack and the Slack platform community, and just a very small amount about the platform. So the Slack platform community is, well, the managers are both myself and my colleague Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is based in San Francisco. So we're a two-man team trying to cover a lot of regions and a lot of people, but all in all, I think we do a pretty good job. So I'm also based in the Slack Dublin office, having never been to the office, but you know, hopefully someday. Elizabeth's over in San Francisco. So now for you, the concept of community is probably quite familiar if you're already working as a developer or within engineering, but it's just the idea that we want to provide a space for people to grow, to ask their questions, to find out like what they can do and what they can achieve with Slack, but also just with each other. You know, it doesn't have to be always Slack specific. It's just nice space for people who are enthusiastic about learning and sharing. And yeah, it's our hub for this. So our platform community, we use a Slack workspace for that. And I'll go through the stats, but anytime I look at it and see how many more people have joined, I was like, wow, that's a lot of people in a space over a short period of time. So yeah, we look at it as being like 4 facets of connecting with others, sharing with people, learning, and hopefully growing in both like knowledge and ability. And then here's a bit about platform. I'm sure that like you might be familiar with this already, but just in case not, especially for anybody who's watching the recording later, just give you quick samples, because I am not the most technological person in the room, but some quick examples of 4 facets of the platform. So we're going to have a look at permissions, blockade, services, and shortcuts. So permissions. One of the things that you can do with Slack, especially for the more technically minded people, is to create your own apps or add existing apps to within your Slack instance. Now, the example that I use here, Polly, there's a polling tool. And just like for an everyday use case that I've seen it being used, being like something really basic as being like, where will we go for lunch today? And putting up the options and then having your team decide. So it's a really quick way of polling, but like also people use it for more complex things. Just for example, like I'm going to be hosting regional meetups quite shortly, and I wanted to check in, would that actually be something that people would be interested in, or would it be overkill? So I was able to poll people and find it out. So yeah, with that, you're able to like suss out what information you're requesting from people and getting the core functionality that you need of being able to poll them and get the results. But polling is just one of the things you can do. That's a sample of like with adding an app and giving it permissions is something you can do. Then on to Blockit. Again, as I said, I'm not the most technical of people, and Blockit, when I first saw it, was very much it felt a bit like the Matrix to me. And then I think then once I was shown how to use it, I was like, this is really cool, especially for people who are not so technically enabled to build stuff, to be able to go in and feel that you can build things using code that's made easy for you. So what Blockit Builder does, it's just check out Blockit. It's here where you'll be able to see like there are many suggestions or examples of what it can do. example that I would use, that I use it most frequently for, is I build a newsletter for our chapter leaders every 2 weeks. And what I'm able to do is like make it look pretty good and solid, then rather just being like, here's a load of links, we're able to add images, buttons, radio keys. And this way people can edit and select what they're doing all the way along. And the code is written for you. So like, you just make the changes to like what information you want to put in, but the actual like facilitating of, rather than writing the code for adding in a button to a link, you just press add button and it does it for you. So that's Block Kit Builder. Now that I'm not frightened of it, I'm very enthusiastic about it. And then surfaces. So from here, this is where we've got like our modals. So by example being that like these would be blocks or building blocks, I would say, within the Slack app. And what they'll do is have dynamic information. So you'll be able to change what information, reorder the modals. And again, it's just a nice interface. Again, I'm not too sure how that's done in the background, so I don't want to pretend and waffle on and make something up, but modals look good. And then lastly, shortcuts. Actually, one thing that we were just talking about in a team meeting yesterday, the platform marketing team, was there has been, I think it was shortcuts tripled, if not quadrupled, once the pandemic started. So as more people were now working from home and they wanted to like automate a lot more of their work, because you don't have the facility to just ask people a question by their desk or get core information that you need, shortcuts have been a way that people are really, really able to automate their work. So again, another simple poll, but just to give you an example of the shortcuts that I would use most frequently within the Slack platform community, is I wanted to gather people's addresses. So I wanted to send a package to our platform chapter leaders. And what I needed to do is get everybody's current address, because again, a lot of people, we had their addresses on record, but people moved around a lot over the last few months, like going back to stay with parents or moving out to more secluded mountains. People were moving. So to find out what was the most appropriate address and like up-to-date address and phone number, I was able to simply use a shortcut, which then anytime people press that shortcut button, what they were able to do is to fill out a form. And with that form, it was like getting me all the information that I needed for our vendor, for our swag vendor. But also what it was doing, it was recording it directly onto a Google Sheet, which again, it's like the CSV file. So I didn't need to go off, gather this information, make it a CSV file. Basically with the Google Sheets integration, this was done for me. And another really common usage that we have for shortcuts is when we host AMAs. So we try and host an AMA or Ask Me Anything session every 3 weeks, give or take, and get somebody from within Slack. Or I'm also looking for people from outside as well, but currently it's just people from within Slack who might be of interest, might be able to share information. Sometimes they get silly questions, sometimes they're really specific about like, what is your Q3 product functionality update going to be on this particular tool? So it's really, really varied. We've had people from the app directory team, we've had one of the heads of engineering, and also we're not going to be doing it using this method, or well, actually no. We're going to have Stuart Butterfield, maybe you've heard of him, but the CEO of Slack is going to join us for an AMA. And so with that, what we're able to do is with this shortcut, people are able to submit their questions. And then they are filtered into a channel where it's just myself and Elizabeth and whoever is going to be participating in the AMA. So they're able to see all the questions that are coming through. And sometimes, if you get duplicates, or if there's things that like for legal matters perhaps related to an acquisition that we can't yet answer, what you're able to say is like, okay, accept and publish or decline. And this way, if it's accepted and published, it will go into our public facing Ask Me Anything space, and the correspondent is able to answer. Or if something that's declined, it's just nobody has to see it again. So yeah, really handy way of moderating without the actual action of having to like yes, 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 or no. It's just simply like, yeah, done, or move on. I'm a big fan. So yeah, Slack platform community. Then what I'll talk about now is not just the platform. Again, the platform community is for people who want to connect with other people who are building on Slack. and you can share your challenges, successes, solutions, and learn from others. But it also, like, it's not in any way restricted to people who are technologically gifted, or if you're just curious, the platform community is there, because there are people who don't even know what a block kit is or how to create a shortcut, but they like using this app and want to see what other people are doing, and that space is really open to everybody. So slackcommunity.com, it was launched in 2019, and then the first meetup was held in Berlin. What's coming next is pictures of people meeting in real life. So when I see it, I was like, but what I also find incredibly impressive is that, like, the community isn't even 2 years old, and they said I've got the numbers written down, but you're looking at the best part of 10,000 people. So I find, like, in such a short space of time, that's an incredibly large amount of people who are sharing knowledge and being active in our space. So yeah, look at that, Brandenburg Gate, in real life people with an agile board, just like, yeah. So the idea is that hopefully someday we'll be able to meet in person again. In the Oslo chapter, imagine we can have a lovely time in Oslo, but for the moment, and I think for the foreseeable, things are in the virtual world. But yes, someday we'll get back to this, strangers gathering in a room and sharing ideas. So yeah, 9,000 plus members. I'm so sure that it's under 10,000 by like 10 or 15, but for the sake of accuracy, let's say 9,000 plus members. We have, for the volunteer chapter leaders like Harvard, there's, I think it's now 118. We have a new, one more chapter leader. I should be onboarding them this week for Barcelona. So we're always getting more and more people joining us. And then prior to the impending Barcelona chapter, we also have a new Munich chapter. So yeah, I love seeing how it's growing out and spreading across different cities. So there's 90 plus chapters again. We're on the cusp of 100, and not like 101, and 40 plus countries. So yeah, very geographically spread. Just related to a previous community that I worked on from a former company, I always thought, like, I certainly at the start that my assumption was, and it seemed to be from a previous company, that it will be quite North America centric. So what I was seeing with all the chapters that we have in the Slack platform community, it is very, very global. So meet up locally. Not right now, virtually, but just even like from looking at this slide, I'm able to see like our platform chapter leaders in Nairobi, in Baku, and in Tbilisi, and also over in Accra. Like that's just a sample of people that we're seeing here, and we always need speakers. So even if you're interested in becoming a chapter leader, that's great. Or if you feel like that's not a commitment that you have time for, also fine. But perhaps if you'd like to advertise, or just explain a bit about what you do or what you're able to do, or demonstrate how to build something, anything at all, or even like a thought leadership piece. If you're interested in being a potential speaker, it doesn't have to be for any particular city, because things are virtual. Once it's a time zone that suits you, please reach out, because we're always looking for people that will help make these events interesting. So yeah, online world, join any chapters meetup. So people before, because it was a city-based model, which made sense when you could meet up in real life, less so in this current moment, but you can join any meetup. You are not restricted to where you currently are sitting. You can come from like anywhere in the world, again, as long as it suits you. So the geographical barriers, they're not there so much anymore. I might actually working in an event in Berlin where we ran out of chairs. So people were sitting on the floor. Some people were totally fine about that. Others were less impressed, so that we had to turn people away. Just simply, there were not enough chairs. So now we don't really have that, because I think a lot of people, they have their home comforts and are able to join. And yet there's no one set rule when it comes to any topics or speakers. We have a lot of varied content. Like an event that I recently enjoyed was hosted by the Amsterdam chapter. I think that it was just a panel discussion, people like looking into or explaining about some things that they found great from working from home, other things, a bit of complaining about like what was miserable, but it was great. There was lots of people, I think, from GitHub and Miro in particular. And yeah, it was just a lovely session to hear other people in a different place. And again, getting to meet new people at this moment of time is always lovely. So yeah, there's lots of variation. Some chapters tend to lean more technical, others more panel discussions, but again, we like to keep it mixed. And yes, I know that you're at one now, but this is how our events look. We're using now currently Bevy Virtual. So that's the tool that we're using, because Bevy was a tool that was created specifically for people who run communities. The idea being that by using this tool, it does all the admin stuff. And yet to join the workspace, if you haven't already, I can post the link in the chat. Basically, it's just bit.ly/SPC workspace. And from there, you'll be able to join. And that's where we're having all the live action stuff. That's where people are able to chat away in real time. And we have got a lot of people from Slack, from the engineering team and the platform team there to answer any questions if you are building. But also, like, if you have feedback or requests, we've got channels for that you can put in directly, and we can feed it back into those teams. A channel that has been recently added, I think, I don't know, for me, I feel perhaps too Northern European for it. It's social yelling, and people go in and scream by using all capitals, but it's been really popular. So again, if you want to go in and start screaming into the abyss, you're very welcome to join social yelling. And yet, like, some of the interesting chapters, like Baku recently opening up, that was I thought that was a class. That we now have like a chapter in Azerbaijan, and then like other things where like people are sharing remote work tips, or if there's like a tool, maybe even like you've seen about workflows and shortcuts, like what are people doing there? Where can I get some inspiration? There's some ideas of like channels you can join. So with that, thank you. I will stop sharing, but hopefully this has given you a bit of an idea about Slack platform community and the Slack platform itself.
Great, Niamh. Thank you. Thank you so much. Can I post this this link, or would you be able to post that link to the same people who got the invitation?
Yeah, are you talking about the link for the workspace?
Join the workspace, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the workspace, by the way, it's fantastic. There's a lot of knowledgeable people there, and if you have a question about anything, you'll get an answer in minutes. So it's a really great place to hang out.
Yeah, or scream into the abyss. Oh, and hi, David. So David in the chat there is also, that will be our new chapter leader in Barcelona.
Hi, David.
And with that, if there's no questions, we can start wrapping up.
Great. Yes. Yes, I spoke a bit at the beginning, and I mentioned that I would like to help find someone, or find someone who can run this together with me. This is just a start of the chapter. I think we'll be more than 4 or 5 people down the road. But let's then get this started, and let's start having meetings maybe in a month or two, and so just let me know what are the topics you'd like to dive into. I'm really interested in learning more about KiteMaker, Kevin, and how you are using Slack and some of the things you learned from working with Slack with KiteMaker. So that, for example, that would be a great and interesting topic.
Yeah, happy to talk about that anytime.
Super. Yeah.
Lovely to meet you, Kevin.
You as well.
Howard.
Okay.
Thanks very much for having me. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay. Bye, guys. Bye.